Hello there, Big Benedict here. We're playing God of War Chains of Olympus on God difficulty, and this is my no upgrade run plus, featuring no damage, and we're currently on Installment the 4th, and we've actually got some pretty good stuff, some hard shit, and all around good stuff. Now this first fight, whoa boy. A couple years ago when I was doing this run, I remember it took me in excess of 4 hours, but this time it took me less than an hour, and the reason for that is because I was expecting it, I knew what was coming. These hoplites on the wall just use the square attack. You cannot grab them on this version, so I would actually venture to say that if you don't use the square attack, you can't do this. You're going to get hit too much. They do jump on you at times, and there's a little struggle. I think you don't take damage on that, so that's fair. But just a few of these wall climbers left, and then we're going to be on the first fight. Now, they do introduce the Medusa in a good way, in my opinion. There's just one of them, and I think I'm just going to say Gorgon. I think that's what it is, the Gorgon. The first one's right over here, and it's really strange because this enemy, this first one, I almost swear it has less HP than the two that follow it. It's just something that I feel, and I don't know for sure, but god damn it all, it feels like this one just dies fast, the other ones take an eternity. It could just be mental, a mental sort of error when I'm trying to process everything in the haste of doing this in the small confines of this area. You wouldn't believe how small this area is. With one of them it's fine, but with two it's incredibly difficult. You can also preempt that circle attack. If you know they're almost dying, you can match circle and he will jump on the Gorgon before you even get the prompt, and you can get a big lead on these enemies. Okay, here's the two second ones over here. You want to get as much damage on one of them as you possibly can when they first spawn. If you stand over where they spawn, you actually will cause them to spawn in another area. But the problem about this situation is it's extremely tiny, and you've got to be rolling around to avoid the stone gaze that they cast. There's plenty of time to break free, but as you can see, when they throw that stone gaze, it looks like they're going to hit you. So I always, out of reflex, block. See that? Every time they do it, it looks like they're gonna hit you with their arms. It's just very deceptive. So if you stand by, do you see the door with the soul on it to the right, that red door? If you stand over there, they don't come over there. But the problem is that they never will stop spamming their that. So if you come over here, you can roll forever. You can try to break out of it. You can try to do the plume, because the plume will stagger them. But I think that if they're using the stone gaze, I always call it like the stone gaze, the stone stare, I'm not sure. But what I try to do at some point is get in a few hits on these guys. But the problem is that you're rolling around to avoid the stone gaze of one, and then you're trying not to get turn to stone yourself, and then you're wondering when you roll, if you're going to roll into the attack of another one. So I think it's one of the more difficult fights in this run to no damage. It's just very tricky, and unfortunately they can't turn anything but you to stone. They don't turn themselves to stone. Only you get turned to stone. There's no repercussions for other enemies. And this is the first time we're seeing this enemy. There's also a Gorgon Queen near the end of the game, but I think she's pretty much the same. I think it's just a palette swap, honestly. A lot of palette swaps in this game. I also realize I've been erroneously calling the Minotaurs armored Minotaurs. I was mistaking them, I think, for the ones later on in the game, and if it's not them, it's the ones in the next game, so I do apologize. They're not armored Minotaurs, they're just standard Minotaurs. Okay, here's another classic example of a room that's way too small for you to deal with huge enemies. So, first guy, this fucking bastard right here. You just want to, square, triangle, circle, spam till he's dead. Kill him, and then if you want to, I wouldn't recommend it because I feel bad about it. If you go up on that platform up to the right, you can go up there and just spam the super plum, so you can just spirit whore up there if you want to. But I consider it a sign of kind of like weakness in my abilities, and I don't want to go up there. And I altogether consider it just off limits for myself. See that little place up there? You can stand up there for safety. They'll never get you. Okay, so what you need to do over here is look for little openings in between them so that you don't get hit. It's very easy to get hit by these guys with this roll. Their punches, the ambiguity of where their hits are connecting with your precious body. And remember, we haven't seen these guys since the first video. And remember, it was 15 super plumes for one. So we're talking potentially like 30 super plumes for these guys, unless we connect more than one at a time. But here's the thing. You want to make sure that you get the circle over both of them and execute them one right after the next. Because if you kill one of them before you've dispatched the other one, what's going to happen is you'll have the hoplites in this area, and they will. You'll see how fucking fast they come at you. It's incredible how fast they come at you. So what you want to do is you want to deal with the hoplites by themselves without any Cyclopses around. Now, there's going to be a little bit of overlap with the last hoplite. There will be like one Cyclops left, but that'll be near the end of the hoplites and their spawn. So, there's also a part later in the game with a couple of these guys, and there is another area where it's like the smallest, tiny little room over here. And I suppose it's to give you pressure, isn't it? What do you think? I think it's just the limitations of the Vita. Or the PSP, whatever. Yeah, sorry, not the Vita, but the PSP, you can only put so much on it. It can only handle so much. So, but it does definitely put pressure on you. Okay. And just make sure that as this fight's going on, you check to see, about those circles. I really like the circle over the heads. I didn't care for the halos and almost. See that? Very close. Very, very close. Now, when you spirit whore and you do your super plumes, they do get staggered a little bit if they're not doing an attack. But you really have to. This is good practice for later in the game. Like, there is an out over here for you to just cop out if you want to. Stand up there where I mentioned. There's a red chest up there too behind that piece of column. But it's good practice for the later Temple of Persephone, where it's a really tiny room and you've got to manage to not get hit with these guys. See, that was just pure and simple skill. Just kidding. I'm a lucky dog sometimes, huh? A lucky fucking dog. I feel like a fucking dog sometimes. It's just like a filthy goddamn animal. And then I think of all the other YouTubers that really are just pure pigs like DSP. Okay, circle over both guys and then just grab them. Grab and go. Okay, so the hoplite is actually going to spawn, I think, like just about right now. Where is he? Look, check him out. He's somewhere. Yep, they see that. See him in the top. Did you see him? You don't want to mess with him with any Cyclops around. Look, just look how fast they come at you, and they charge at you. They begin to charge at you with no telegraph because they're off the screen. And they do that off screen. So I've been thinking, couldn't they put some sort of a camera in the game so that you can prevent the following from happening over here? Just watch what happens. But see, this is the intermediary time between the hoplites spawning and the final Cyclops. Yes, there is another one. It happens up here. I know, because I was blown away with how fast these guys are. Sun Shield's cool. It's really cool. I like it. I'm sorry that I started out saying that it was not very, mind-blowing, but it is actually very helpful. Okay, so we've got a Cyclops. There might be a little bit of overlap. Here's the one moment of overlap, see? But it doesn't really matter because you can just, you can do this. I chose to get out of there, but look how fast this guy comes at me. Look how fast. You don't want this sort of thing to happen when there's Cyclops around. And I know that there is one around now, but there could be more hoplites if you didn't. Look at that. He came right at me like a bullet. Unreal. Unreal. I think there should be kind of a camera, you know. Imagine what they could have made instead if they hadn't made that piece of shit God of War that they just called God of War. You know, the 2008 version. Imagine what they could have done, all the interesting things. The amalgamation of all these games and the interesting... You know how Mario Brothers evolves all the time and does just really crazy things that kind of just make you have your mind get blown? They could have done that with God of War 4. You know, instead they chose to make this pile of just utter dog shit where you can't even jump in it. I mean, the guy runs around, you know, with a pesky kid. It's so annoying. I fucking hate God of War 2018. God of War 2018 is for people who abandoned the series and never cared for it after the third game, you know, and they didn't really do anything with Ascension. It's just for fair weather people, you know, and they got their pile of dog shit, and then so did I, but I don't want that type of dog shit, and they do, because they don't really care. They lack taste, and they lack discrimination, and they're not as into this whole thing of what it is, you know. I understand about change and things, but don't make it into something else, you know. Can't even fucking jump. Okay, so there's just one of these guys left now, and don't get too cocky now, if you can help it. Okay, he's got the circle button. I remember a long time when I started to play these games that I was complaining a lot about the quickness of the quick time events not giving me enough time. I guess I just wasn't versed enough in these games. That's not true. They give you enough time. There's only a couple of times where it is broken, and I'll point that out. I know exactly where those broken parts are. But they give you plenty of time. Plenty. I'm sorry I was such a little shitty baby back then. Okay, get ready to grab some harplings up here. We're going to have to deal with harplings quite a lot. We're going to be dealing with another enemy over here. There's an optional Gorgon fight over here. Now you might wonder, dude, this is, you know, no damage in this game. It's too frustrating. I don't want to do it. Well, think about this. The Godfather Dictator, I was watching him on Twitch. He's no damaging Ninja Gaiden 2. Like, compared to this is like easy street compared to that. He's doing such a great job over there. I can't believe it. Like, I watched him get from the beginning of chapter 11 to the first save, and I honestly, and I feel bad about thinking about this, but I didn't think he would be able to do it. I wanted him to be able to do it, you know, but I just didn't think that you could. But he proves you wrong consistently. And, man, I'm looking forward to his walkthrough. I don't know, he probably won't commentate over it, but that'll be probably one of the finest things on YouTube if I had to say so myself, aside for this project, of course. Now, are you being sarcastic about that, Buck? Because it's hard to tell when you're sarcastic. You see, you can't even use a sun shield to deflect anything back over here. No collision in this game. Ring outs. See, I preempted that. No ring outs, save for like one area. Gorgons, you can't turn anybody else to stone except you. Pretty shitty. Really shitty. Okay, so the next thing we've got from here on out, every time you get to a fight, you're going to be grab whoring harplings, and then you're going to be dealing with a new enemy over here. This is a Death Knight, and it's a very interesting enemy. When it does its normal attacks with the shield, it has a shield, okay? And it comes in pairs, too, so it's a really exception to the rule about, having one enemy spawn initially to have a good idea of what the enemy is. But it works majestically. It's so tight. It is so able to be controlled in a perfect way. Be careful down here. They can actually checkpoint you with damage over here, so don't mess around with these pieces of shit. The majority of this game, think about this, the majority of this game you can just do this. You can just press circle and you can win. You know, compared to no damaging Ninja Gaiden 2, for God's sakes. Jesus. Oh, fuck. See how fast they come at you? Death Knights. Remember when we had that what was that thing called? Well, you'll see it. It's those guys with the shield that looks like a waffle cone. And once you break their shields, they do attacks that cannot all be blocked. They will stagger you. So you have to parry them with the sun shield. And if you do that, you can completely wreck this enemy. And what's great about it is that this sun shield does circular area parry damage. Not really damage, but parry. It has a parry effect in a circular area radius around you. So even if you've got one guy in front of you and one guy behind you, and you want to fight it that way, it's possible to, because whatever parry you get, it will affect and spread out to both enemies if they're, you know, close to each other, which they will be. This is not an enemy that you can just spirit whore on. Okay? So here's the beginning of the fight. You always just want to grab whore these shits. I don't know why they do this, but they do. Blame Rue Wasiteria. Okay. Just be careful, you know, grabbing the birds around these guys. So it doesn't avail you anything to do a super plume to break their shields, because it doesn't damage them in the same way as a regular plume. So the plume is sufficient, so you don't need to, you know, worry about getting that. But all I do is light, heavy, light until I get an opening to do light, heavy to do a plume. Sometimes I will dodge away if there are, like in the next fight, things that will, like environmental hazards, which there are going to be. But if you just learn the timing of a simple swing of this enemy, all it is that. That's all you have to learn right there. Except they do a follow-up that can be parried also if you want to, but you really don't even need to take it there. You don't. But you see this? Just stand in front of them, parry the attack, it will spread out to the other one, they will both get staggered, and then you continue your combo, and then you do the quick time event. Do it at your own risk though, because I have got hit when I've got the control taken away from me in cutscenes like this. They've hit me. It's really sad, but I don't think it happens on this run, but if it can't happen on this run. What am I talking about? But yeah, you are vulnerable during these times a little bit, like at the very end. Of course, when you're doing iframe attacks in this game, you're free from getting hit, but at the very end, at the cusp of those cutscenes, you could possibly get hit in a really cheap attack. So try not to let that happen. But who can really say? You know, it's out of your hands. It's out of your hands. Okay, so now we're gonna just come on over here, and then we're gonna have a room with environmental hazards and the same enemy sets pretty much. So we just have to watch out for the blades so we don't take damage. It's pretty tricky, actually. The reason, of course, that it's tricky is because you can't make a single mistake on a run like this. So it does put you under a lot of pressure. So when you get into this room, this is a room that you'll see later in the game. There are some receptacles or some sort of you see the glinting areas up there. Those cast the blades back and forth on a track. So obviously you never want to be on the track. I was on the track right there, but it took no damage for some reason. I'm not sure why. You can very easily receive damage that you're not even aware of on this fight from the birds or the blades. So it's a constant process over here of looking at my health bar to make sure that no damage has come off. And the deceptive part of it is, do you see that sometimes there's a splash of blood on the blade icon on the top left? See it? It does it for an effect to put you a little bit more immersive in the game. It's pretty neat, actually. But the problem is that when I see blood like that up there, it kind of tricks me into thinking that I've taken damage. So if you see blood on that blade icon, it's not because, well, you can have taken damage, but you can also not have taken damage and you'll still see the blood effect on it. So that always kind of confuses me, especially when, you know, my eyes are going everywhere in a fight like this. But watch this. This guy's going to hit me one time and I get iframes on it. I put my shield up. The second time, I had barely come out, I barely got control back, and Bastard did his circular swing and I parried it out of just pure reflex. That's an example of maybe not, you might not want to do the quick time events because they do put you in a vulnerable spot. And that should have, told you. But those glinting receptacles up there, you can't interact with them until you get the power glove, the Gauntlet of Zeus. I'm also going to be including the scripted fight with Karin over here. This is a boss fight that we'll do 2 installments from now, and if you just want to just stand here and let him kill you, that's your prerogative. He is going to kill you at length once phase 1 is over. He's going to just kill you, and then it goes to the next part, and it's scripted. But you can interact with the fight and do the fight, and I decided to make sure that I took no damage over here and just showed you the basics of this fight that will be coming up in a couple of installments. It's very simple. I'm just doing light, heavy, parrying, and then doing light, heavy again. When I do the second light, heavy, I'm having iframes, so he's not hitting me. But if you really want to get fancy, you could possibly repeat the combo again after the parry. But it's not likely that you'll get all the iframes that you need, and you'll probably get hit. So what he does is periodically he'll summon some projectiles back. When I was doing my Pain Plus run, I couldn't shoot those back, so you had to dodge it. And this fight is very tricky at the end on a phase where he goes up into the air, and you cannot return the projectiles that he sends at you on a Pain Plus run. Of course, on this run we can, and it kind of just, it ruins the run a little bit, but it is possible. I've done it, but I've taken damage on it, like I've said before. But Persephone's a whole other story. It can take an hour to take her phase down because she has so much life, and the fight is a certain way, and once you get health from him, you're going to see him go up there. Ordinarily, you would use the Gauntlet of Zeus to interact with one of the supporting beams over there on his ship, but he's going to do that to cause you to get killed, and he's going to come down. I did edit out the rape scene afterwards. Kratos gets raped by Karin, so I didn't want to show you that because it's too sensitive. But I will see you in installment the 5th. This has been the 4th installment. It's going great. Hope you're learning, having fun, enjoying it. And like I said, I will see you in the next installment. Please take care.